Hey guys, welcome back to Autastic, your comedian's guide to autism. I'm your host. My name is Kirk Smith, and I have a severely autistic son who's 26 now. Man, time goes fast. For years, it was me and Graham Kay. He's another very funny comic. He has a less severe brother, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And lately, Graham's gotten busy, so it's just me. I'm doing the hosting duties, but this is your podcast for all things autism related, and we discuss what's going on in the community. We have interviews with scientists and guests, people doing different things, and yeah, just your resource. If you've got somebody that you think would be a great guest, of course you can reach out to us, reach out to me at kirksmithcomedy@gmail.com, and let me know what you got. This week I'm excited. I'm interviewing Jill Escher, who was a longtime roving reporter, helped us for years. She is on the council for the National Council for Severe Autism. It's got a big event coming up in April in Washington, D.C., and I was excited to have her on to explain what's going on and give us an update on their life and what they're doing. And yeah, without any further ado, here's Jill Escher. Hey guys, welcome back to Autastic. We have Jill Escher, our roving reporter, also a longtime listener, supporter. I met you, me and Graham were talking about this. We've done this 10 years now, and I think we met you the
Oh,
first
wow.
couple years. I think 7, 8 years ago, maybe.
Probably. Yes. I met you out in the Bay Area.
No, LA. You were
Call.
living I was living in LA at the time. You had me up in
We're
the Bay
living
Area
in
to do an
LA.
event.
Yes, that's what I
But
was thinking of.
but
Yes.
the first
I
time, I
remember when you were
think you were
living in
living
LA.
in Southern
Mhm,
Cal, and I was living in Southern Cal. And so that had to be at least,
mhm,
yeah, I left LA 5 years
mhm.
ago, so that'd be 7, 8 years ago. I don't know. And your
Yep,
guy was just
just
a little
about.
guy. How's he doing?
Well, our sons are the same age as I recall.
Yes.
So that means
Good.
that they're both 26 this year,
Yes. And
right?
he was definitely at home at the time when I met you. So I think he was like 16 or 17 or
Yes.
something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And he no longer lives at home with us. Although I see him every day. We got him a place right near us, just
That's great.
a couple minutes away, and he lives with staff, and he's been pretty stable and he's doing pretty well. So I take him
Good.
out every day, but I'm able to not be his 24/7 caregiver
Yeah, if he
anymore,
doesn't
which
sleep
was
one
a
night, you don't have
dramatic
to be up with
change.
him all night. Yeah.
Well, among other things.
Yes. Now,
Among,
tell
but
tell our
things have
longtime
been better with him.
listeners.
He's
I'm so
Mhm.
sorry. I'm on a ship, and so the internet's terrible on mine. I apologize if I keep talking over you. I was gonna say, tell our longtime listeners what his how is he verbal? Is he working? What's going on with him?
So Johnny, who's now 26, is nonverbal and has profound autism and a history of highly challenging behaviors.
Hmm.
So if autism is a spectrum, he's far, far, far to, the left end of the spectrum where there is severe cognitive impairment, complex and challenging behaviors, and the need for lots and lots of support. So whatever label you want to put on that, I don't care, but that's
Yeah,
really, where he is. I also have a daughter who is now just about to turn 19,
unbelievable.
who also has nonverbal, profound autism, but without the challenging behaviors. So it's like two kids with profound autism, but that's in many, many ways. Sophie is super social and loves going out, and loves doing things, and is super active. Really fun and easy. And then Johnny is the opposite of that. He's tends to be very rigid, very challenging, and inflexible, and not social. So I have those kind of divergent expressions of severe
Yeah.
autism, and so Johnny is actually he's doing pretty well. It was several years ago we started him on a medication. I was always very resistant to putting him on a medication. I think a lot of autism parents are because we're really afraid of the side effects. We're
Yeah.
afraid of the immediate side effects and we're afraid of the long-term effects. And so I was one of those moms who's like, oh, I don't want him to put on weight. I don't want him to suffer any, organ damage. I don't want him to, feel uncomfortable, as a consequence of the medication. So I didn't give anything to him. And finally, several years ago, we started him on an atypical antipsychotic called Abilify, or aripiprazole is its generic name, and on a very low dose. And almost immediately, it had a
This is like
super
a
beneficial
small
effect.
dose of antipsychotic, or what is it exactly?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Small dose of Abilify, an
yeah,
antipsychotic.
yeah. We had to
And
do
it
the same thing
had,
with JJ, and we didn't figure it out till he was about 18. Well, after
yeah,
his
like with
mom died,
Johnny,
and then it was like, yeah, I was out of ideas. So like, we're trying
yeah,
everything.
exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, everything else is failing. So you're against a wall and you're, I guess I
And I
have to
remember
try
my
this. And
doctor, I remember the doctor being like, "Well, if you were having an issue, would you take this medicine?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would. I trust, in general, I trust medicine. I would try something, you know." So he's, "Well, it's
right.
not, you would do it on yourself, but not on him." And we're like, "Oh yeah, I guess, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, stands to reason, right?
yeah."
So, autism, especially, severe autism, it's often a choice between a bad choice and a worse choice. It's not
That's
like,
a great
you
way
know,
of putting it. That's a
it's not
great way
like,
of
oh,
putting it.
there's a
I agree.
great, yeah, yeah. So that's how it was with Johnny. And he ended up being really responsive to this medication. Now, not all kids are. A lot of kids, don't respond well to it, but he happened to respond quite well to it. And so far, apart from some weight gain, which definitely happened, there hasn't been any real negative side effects from what we can tell. So that has made life easier for everybody, for him, for his immediate
His
caregivers, for
moods have
his
gotten
family
better,
members.
and
His
by the way,
moods are
you can
better.
for
Yeah.
sure edit any of this that you don't feel comfortable with, but his moods and his violent
Oh,
tendencies, all that's gotten better.
now I have no secrets anymore.
Okay.
I tell everyone everything by now. But yeah, I mean, so he used to be much more aggressive.
Yeah.
He had a couple of episodes that were really quite distressing where he would repeatedly attack his sister,
Okay.
including like ripping out her hair and just pouncing on her and literally scratching her face. She had really bad PTSD as a consequence
Of
of living
course.
with her brother who constantly attacked her. And he would attack me as well. He would hurt me. He would bite me. He would um, scratch me. He, would try to break my hands, would try to break my bones. I mean, it was not pretty. It was very bad. So he no longer does that. I think what happened, let me explain to you how one of the clinicians explained it to me,
Great.
because I think it really summed it up. So think about a bomb, like a cartoon bomb with one of those fuses, and
Yeah.
you light the fuse, right? And you see it edging closer and closer to the
Yeah.
bomb, right? The way she described it is, the drug lengthens the fuse. So instead of him having a triggering event and then exploding immediately,
Mm.
he can take time with the event, he can process the event, and he doesn't become explosive. He can wait it out.
As
And
quickly. That's a great way
that
of saying it.
that that's exactly what we saw with him. And like, yes, that's it. I mean, I can talk to him. I can, quote unquote, reason with him, right? Without him, trying to harm me. And so he's on a very low dose now. He's on 4.5 milligrams of this drug a day, which is pretty low. And even that has had a really beneficial effect. So that's really, honestly, and he's also on sertraline, which is Zoloft, which is an antidepressant as well. And he also has a medication to sleep at night. So, in terms of all the interventions that we've tried with Johnny, these have been the most consequential, the ones that have really helped him the most, and it's really improved his quality of life, and it's definitely improved our ability to take him out and do things with him.
Right. Which also improves his quality of life. Honestly, he gets to experience a little bit
Absolutely.
more than just his bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah,
People ask me,
exactly.
yeah, I kind of joke about having kids again, like, like, oh, maybe I'll and I don't know if I would. I'm not seeing anybody, so there's the first step. You gotta have a girlfriend or wife. But if I did, and I had another, so the number one question I get is, well, what if you have another kid with autism, and what would you do differently? And the number one I would have got him on as soon as he got about 13 and was violent. He broke some of his mom's ribs one time, kicking her, not kicking her, like he
Oh,
was just trying to
wow.
keep her away from, he's on the ground like trying to throw a fit, and she was trying to grab him. And that as soon as it started getting violent like that, and he was her size or bigger, and she's like your size, like 5'2", then we would have tried this because the when I was the first time he gets a small dose of antipsychotic too, and I was talking to the doctor about side effects, and the doctor goes, "Well, I've prescribed this over my career to over 1,000 people with autism, and we haven't had really any side effects." So then you're like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. 1,000 is a pretty good track record." So yeah, for young moms or dads who
Hmm.
their kid is getting to that age and he is violent, we're not talking about the Elon Musks of the world who are say they're autistic or George,
Hmm.
what is it? Who's the other guy from Microsoft? Bill Gates says he might have autism.
Oh,
The
yeah,
the
yeah.
violent kind of autism. Yeah, I would have done it maybe at least 3 or 4 months, 3 or 4 years sooner. We tried about 18. I should have done 13. He's 6 feet tall, like yeah, or 5'11" or whatever, 200 pounds. Yeah, we should have. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say exactly that. Like in retrospect,
yeah. In hindsight, obviously, it's just easier,
I,
obviously.
yeah, I was too resistant for too long, and I think everybody's lives would have been much easier if we had started him on it
Yeah,
earlier.
my wife,
So,
God bless her soul, she fought me on it the whole way, and it was just a blind spot where you're trying to protect your kid, and I should have, in
of
hindsight, put my
course.
foot down and been like, no, this is like a because he was hurting her, and I was too
Yeah,
big for him to hurt me,
yeah,
but he could hurt her. So yeah,
yeah, 100%,
yeah.
100%. And then you have kids like my daughter Sophie, who have severe autism, but have
Well,
no, none of these behaviors,
right,
right? So,
but
and
also
obviously in that
is
case, you don't need
traumatized
anything.
by her brother's behavior. So she would
Yeah.
also,
Oh,
if she could raise her own voice, she would say, also, yeah, I would vote for him to also have that to not hit me.
yes, exactly. She went through enough. She
Yeah.
went through enough. The poor kid. The poor
You
kid.
know, we were
Yeah.
talking about, I was talking to a good buddy of mine about my other child. I have a daughter who's older than my son, who's
Yeah.
I guess 15 months older, and she's neurotypical. And I'm sure she's working through her own. It's a common thing where your brother's disabled or your sibling's disabled, and you feel a little bit ignored, or you feel a little bit, everything's about them and blah 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 blah. So that
Yeah.
would have helped that issue too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the weight
Definitely.
gain's a tough one though. JJ's put on a lot of weight because of
Hmm.
this too. He's about Oh man, I think he's close to 250. I'm about
Oh,
220, so he
wow.
should be closer to 200, 220. Yeah, 250 is he's tall, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
250 is a big kid. You have any concerns about that? Are you looking at the Ozempic or anything, or what are you thinking?
Well, Johnny's put on 20 to 25 pounds. He used to be very lean. He's very muscular. Johnny is
Okay.
like, he's built like a Greek god. He's just absolutely gorgeous. And now he's a Greek god with a tummy and a kind of a semi double chin. Um, so I try to take him out walking every day. I try to get him exercise. And one of his aides is very good about taking him out for hikes. And I just think more and more physical
Yeah,
activity has been helpful. But
that's the gold standard. Yeah, especially for moods too, I
yeah,
find. But yeah,
yeah, that has been the one side effect that really we have noticed, unfortunately.
really?
Yeah, and the other thing
Yeah.
is, by the way, so my daughter, speaking of medication, my daughter had her first seizure a couple months
Okay.
ago, when she was 18. She's still 18. Um, and we never, yeah, it never dawned on us that either of our kids would ever have seizures because Johnny's
My
never
son
had
gets
one.
those. Yeah.
She never had one. And yeah, so now, she was never on any medication before, but now, of course, she has to have seizure meds to prevent another episode. And she hasn't had another one, thank God.
Now, if you
Um,
said nothing's a secret, so I'm going to ask. So she takes the
yeah.
seizure meds in advance, or she has the kind that pull her out, that kind, or what is she doing?
No, I these are just prophylactic.
Okay.
administration of it. It's the most common seizure medication called Keppra, or
Okay.
levetiracetam is the name of the drug. And she takes it twice a day, so she hasn't had another seizure. Basically, it lowers the excitation in the brain and therefore increases the threshold for having another seizure.
Okay.
Hopefully, she'll never have another one. Hopefully, she's one of those one and done kids.
My son's had
Let's hope.
two, I think, and he's
Mm.
26 that we know of, like two main, grand mal, tonic, colonic,
Yeah, yeah, she
colonic.
had a
Yeah.
grand mal, exactly,
Yeah.
tonic-clonic. Yep.
Yeah. But then
So
not
he's
as common
on
as I thought.
so he's on anti-seizure meds probably.
Yes. Yeah, light thing as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a scary one. Obviously, especially my son's about, like your son, like 6 feet tall. So if you were to have a seizure and fall down on his head, he could, if he
Yeah.
clipped a table or something, he could really hurt himself. So yeah, that's the one that
Oh, for
kind of
sure.
concerns
For
me.
sure.
Yeah. Now tell us a little bit about, we haven't had you on. I'm trying to remember a year maybe. I don't know,
Years, probably
years
years.
maybe.
Life's been
But
very
tell us.
crazy. Yeah.
Yes, I know. Sorry, but tell us about the profound. Well, you tell us the two things that you're doing with the writing and the
Oh, yeah.
foundations and the yeah,
Yeah, I know. I'm involved in so
council.
many different things. Yeah, the council, whatever it's called. So, yeah, you are absolutely right. I'm still president of the National Council on Severe Autism. That is a nonprofit that we formed in 2019 to really give a voice to the segment of the autism population that has more, severe forms of
That has
autism,
no
which we just,
voice.
yeah, the people who can't, advocate
Talk.
for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we felt that of the autism spectrum was really being almost assiduously ignored by the mainstream advocacy group. So a bunch of advocates got together and said, hey, we have to do something to really concentrate on this particular population and make sure that their realities are heard and no longer sort of denied or dismissed by people of more of the neurodiversity ilk. So we've been around now for like 6 years and we keep growing and growing and growing.
So
And
if
in
people want to be
fact,
involved in this,
mhm,
how can they reach out to you? How does it work? I didn't mean to cut you
very
off. Sorry.
easy. No, we're super easy to find. You can just, Google National Council on Severe Autism or website ncsautism.org.
What were you saying? I'm
And
sorry. You're growing,
yeah,
and what
just,
was the last part?
oh, we're growing. And in fact, we have our first in person conference. We've done tons of virtual events, but we
That's
have our
great.
first real in person conference in Washington, D.C., April 2nd and 3rd.
Great.
And there's still time. Like, if anybody hears this and is like, wow, I want to go advocate for severe autism, um, April 2nd, we have a meeting. And then April 3rd, we're all going to Capitol Hill to meet with our representatives to make sure they understand how important things like Medicaid are for our population. Because, as you know, our adult services system here in the US is really horribly broken, and it's really scary to even think about further cuts to the Medicaid system. So we are doing that. We're putting on our marching boots and going. So anyone who wants to join us, find it on our website,
That's great.
ncsautism.org. Yeah.
And just quickly, what are some of the? I know you got another thing going on too.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Where do I start? I still on the board of Autism Society, San Francisco Bay
The Bay
Area,
Area, yeah.
and yeah, so I'm still here doing that stuff. And I do a
Aren't
lot
you
of things
writing
there, but
something too?
I write a lot. I write a lot. So I've been writing for publications small and big. The biggest one I've been writing for is called The Free Press, which is a pretty big media platform now. It's very popular. And I've written three pieces for them about autism and developmental disabilities that have all, been viral and really reached millions of people. And that's
Where do
been
people find
really
those articles
gratifying.
at?
The Free Press is thefp.com. Um, and
Okay.
you can just Google my name and,
Just
the
your name?
articles should pop up. Yeah. So,
That's
like, for
awesome.
example, Yeah, I've written about a lot of things, but for example, I wrote about RFK Jr. and his continued focus on the vaccine hypothesis. And I tried to explain why that's a waste of time and money and why we should be looking at other things when it comes to autism causation. But that is unfortunately not a dead issue. Continues to be important and relevant. I've written about employment, and jobs for adults with severe intellectual disabilities and the need for us to expand those opportunities. Um, anyway, lots of different stuff. And I'm still
How,
really involved in research.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
how's that going with Johnny finding the job?
Well, there's no chance. Johnny, unfortunately, is on, as I said, he's on the severe end of severe
Yeah,
autism.
we had a little
So,
quote unquote job for JJ, but it was more of a recreational center where he would go follow instructions, but there was no product that was like being sold or, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah, same thing.
I mean, listen, of course, I harbor hope that, Johnny someday could do something, even if it's like, picking up garbage off a
That's
hiking
exactly what I
trail
said, like sweeping up
or
somewhere or mopping
sweeping
somewhere or
something.
yeah, snow
Oh my
shovel
God,
removal. Yeah.
I would love that. He's just not at a place now where that's really feasible, unfortunately.
But maybe someday, you never
So,
know. Well, I don't want to keep you
yeah,
too
you
long.
never know.
Thank you so much for coming on. Where can they reach you out and add you and find you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, if you want to read some of the stuff I've been writing, some of the stuff I've been presenting on, there's lots and lots of stuff. My website is jillescher.com, one word, Escher. And I archive a lot of things there. So, yeah, and ncsautism.org, I think is just an amazing resource now for families like ours that have kids with more severe autism. You can get information about treatments, information about programs, information about policy. You can become part of a state chapter, like-minded parents in your area who are advocating for changes in your state. There's so many things get involved. So definitely
Yeah,
check that out.
it's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us as always. Thank you for all you do for the community. Jill Escher. Well, that was it. I hope you loved that. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of opportunities to participate, to be involved in the community, and it's always encouraging to see people doing great things. Yeah, so there you have it. All right, guys. Per usual, thank you so much for tuning in. You can add me on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Kirk Smith Comedy. You can support on Autastic Podcast. I'm sorry, you can support on Patreon if you want. Patreon.com/Autastic. And yeah, that's it, guys. Have a great week. You can do it.